So today we're gonna try something new. We're gonna call this segment Real Talk. Real people talking about real estate. We got 4 emerging agents here in this room with me, and we're gonna have a conversation about real estate topics that's gonna last for the next 20 minutes as soon as we're gonna start the timer going. I have no idea what these questions are gonna be. Guys actually took their time and prepared some of the questions to go over, and that's the plan. We're just gonna have a conversation. Any one of you can start the timer going for 20 minutes?
Starting now.
All right, let's begin.
All right.
So I'm a little bit intimidated. I didn't know you guys were gonna take it this seriously and make a list of questions, and I see at least 3 lists of questions. The same list. Oh, you got the same list for everybody?
Yeah.
All right, so you even coordinated on this. Thank you, I'm more intimidated now. So why don't we just dive in and go for it?
Okay.
All
What
right.
do you guys want to talk about?
Oh, yes. On mic. So, real talk, Vladimir. Can we call you Vlad? Vladdy? Do you have a nickname that you prefer?
That's a good question. I don't mind Vlad, but I prefer Vladimir. In Ukraine, Vlad is actually short for another name, Vladislav, which is not Vladimir. And that's why I like it. I don't mind it,
Okay,
but
so there's a distinction in there.
There is a
So we'll stick with Vladimir.
thank
You
you.
guys good with that?
Yeah.
That's a good starting question.
All right, there we go. Before we start stepping on toes, we understand that you're everyone's clear. Vladimir is our broker. He's basically the man in charge. So our first question to you would be, do you miss being just an agent?
That's a good one. Quite a bit, actually. Sitting behind the desk is not as fun, not as interesting, I would say. So the most interesting part of sitting behind the desk is actually when agents come with their problems or strategies and ideas, and that gets the feeling of being in the field. Trying to solve some of those things. How do you negotiate? Because that's what agents do. They search for new business, they negotiate on behalf of their clients, being actively in the field. And you guys know, for those of you who made offers got accepted, that you get a rush every time something like that happens. When you're a broker, that rush is gone, kind of, or it's harder to get that rush. So definitely miss that.
Okay.
Awesome. All right. So. Out of the thousands of the jobs out there, why real estate? Why did you land on real estate specifically?
Very simple, actually. When you calculate the time and money that you need to spend to get this education, and run it by many different professions, most likely real estate is going to be one of those where you can spend the least time getting that education and paying for that education, and the money that you can be making that first year. But having said that, real estate is also one of the most uneducated professions for that. The entry level is really low, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why we have the statistics of over 80% of agents dropping out their first year because of that entry level. But in terms of the ratio, I don't know any other job, maybe other jobs in sales, where you can spend $300, spend 3 months getting your education, and start making $100,000 the first year. I mean, you can name some. Real estate is one of the few that I know.
Okay.
Sure.
So, in all your experience, if you could go back to day one, is there anything that you would change to now?
That's a deep question. Let me think for a second. I think one of the things that stops people from being successful from the beginning is concentration on money. And I also had that concentration on money. It took me some time to understand that that shouldn't be a priority and experience should be the priority. and work for free if you have to, but if somebody can teach you how to fish, it's so much more valuable than just getting that one fish to eat. And so initially I was looking for ways to make money, and I think that was stopping me from growing. But as soon as I stopped caring about what I'm making, I started learning, and ironically, that started generating me more money.
All right, cool.
So that's probably what I would adjust.
Awesome.
What motivated? What motivated you when you first began, and what motivates you now?
What motivated me when I began? I was working with investors that were working with me towards their real estate purchases, but I also felt like I was getting educated from them. So I had the license, but I was working with people that didn't have license and understood more about real estate than I did. Right? So real estate license is not the most important thing in order to understand real estate. And that's what motivated me, learning from people that make a good income from it, because when you work for investors and if you get your commission of, I don't know, 2.5%, and they're getting a deal where they're making $300,000. So you're making your 2.5%, and here which is, let's say, from $1 million transaction is typically $25,000, but they just made $300,000. And that gets your brain thinking, okay, so how do I go from just making a commission to actually becoming an investor and doing what they do? So you get this amazing opportunity to work with them on the purchase and learn from this while they have most of the skin in the game. They're putting their money in. And what motivated me really at that point of time is, yeah, I'm making less than them, but I'm learning from this, and eventually I'm going to be able to do that myself and invest my money. Instead of just making the commission, I can make these kind of projects. So that's what motivated me at that point of time. Now, more so is the agents that I see. So it became more than just me, right? Especially when things in the world happened, the pandemic. I think when in 2020 pandemic happened, there was the first oh crap moment where I thought like, oh crap, people depend on me. Like we all stopped making income for some time, right? And my brain just went into like, how do I make sure that not only I survive, but the people that I work with also stay in this business and don't go somewhere else and don't go and switch to a paycheck job just to survive. And so that's what motivates me right now, every day, is to make sure that our agents have good lives, and as long as they do, I do. As simple as that.
Awesome, man. Is it Dayton?
Yeah. All right. So let's switch it up a little bit. You know, let's talk about how you balance your work and personal life. Family, what do you do for fun? How do you balance the two? Because there's obviously no schedule. You don't clock in, clock out. So how do you manage that time to make sure you have like a nice balance?
Honest answer or?
Let's go honest.
Or glamorous?
Complete honesty.
There is no balance. And that topic comes up in real estate a lot. Every conference I go to, every real estate workshop, everything that is related to real estate and success, and there is a panel of agents every time they ask them, what is the work-life balance? How do you manage to do all of this? I still haven't found that myself. To me, it's some light at the end of the tunnel, something that I'm always seeking for, and honestly, I don't know if that's something I will ever find. So to me, it's more not of a thing that you have, but thing that you seek, right? And I feel like as long as it's on top of your mind, how do I find that work-life balance? You're making steps in that direction. Look at it this way. Technically, I could have just pause the company where it is, have some passive income, and find that work-life balance. The thing is, I don't want to. And even for you guys right now, you may think that in 5 years, I want to be able to stop doing that, right? And I had a conversation with one of the top producing agents here in the Bay Area, and I asked him, when do you plan to retire? And he said something that stuck with me. He said, I don't want to know when I retire, but I want to know when I'm going to be able to retire. And he said, most likely, when I can retire, I won't, but I want to know that I can. And it has a really deep meaning to it, and it kind of stuck with me, and I realized that's something that I want. I want to be able to retire when you're 30, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you will retire, right? Work-life balance, the thing is, every step of the way in the real estate industry, I think you're gonna have to start making choices. Do I go and host an open house, or do I take my girlfriend or wife or fiance and go to Santa Cruz and spend a weekend there? Do I celebrate Christmas, or do I take this listing that I'm working on, right? So every time there's going to be a decision that you need to make. And it's okay to make either. It's okay to commit to the open house or to go to to spend time with a significant other. The only catch is that once you make that choice, you have to go back and fix the choice that you didn't make, right? So if you decide between the open house and significant other, and you decide to spend the weekend with somebody else, now you have to work on your business because you had a drop in your production. You didn't make enough. You didn't meet enough clients. You need to find another way to generate more business for that weekend that you didn't work. Or vice versa, if you go and do that open house, you have to make up with the person that you didn't spend the weekend with, and find creative ways to go to dinner, make a surprise, be romantic, that kind of stuff. So it's always like choosing one or the other and then fixing whatever you didn't choose. So that's, in my opinion, work-life balance.
There you go.
So which one would you guys choose? Open house.
Open house can be $25,000. That's how you should think about it.
$1,000 plus on the weekend.
Yeah, you say, you tell your significant other, hey, I'll give you half of it. Don't get mad at me.
Yeah. So it's always about making stuff up. I think that's real estate kind of in general.
I like that. Okay.
Sorry, not making stuff up, making up for stuff. That's a better
Making stuff up. I wasn't at my listing. I was.
English is my second language.
All right. So I mean, okay. So on that topic, then, what was your first major struggle? So once you got into a real estate business, where's the time where you're really struggling, kind of trying to find your step?
I think at some point, especially the busier you are, you start burning out. So coming back to that work-life balance, if you don't decide when to take a break or how to expand your business, life will decide for you. And if you don't take breaks, you're gonna start collapsing, right? Literally.
Yeah.
Like I hurt my shoulder right now. I think it's one of the things why it's my way of my body is telling me slow down, man. Like you're rushing things too fast.
Yeah.
And it happens occasionally when I don't take breaks. And I feel like that's the way of the universe to kind of put me back in my spot. But I just spaced out. I had a thought that just ran across.
Happens to the best.
I am taking it too fast. Repeat your question one more time.
So within real estate, what was your biggest struggle? It could be like a transaction or...
Yeah, so the struggle, I think, when you try to do everything yourself. And there are going to be moments when you have that mentality of, I want to run everything. There's nobody else that can work like me. And I had that for a really long time. I couldn't expand and grow my business, so I started making certain income and I kind of just got stuck there. And I felt like I'm doing a lot of things, but I also didn't trust anybody to delegate the things I was doing. So you're caught in this weird, you hit the ceiling, basically. Mm-hmm. And until you're ready to let go, you won't be able to grow. You're just gonna get stuck on that ceiling. And say you're making $300K a year or $400K a year. That's an amazing income, right? And you don't want to let that go. And you start thinking then, okay, as soon as I start getting this load of work to somebody, I'm gonna start making not 400K but 200K. And mentally, you're not ready to let that go. Mm-hmm. But when you start realizing that if you're delegating, you may make less, but you also spend less time, and you transition from the actively in the field to more of a manager position, right? Essentially, that's the transition from an agent to the broker, right? Mm-hmm. And that's when you start realizing, okay, I'm making less per transaction, but as long as I'm making more overall, and the agents that are working are happy, then it's not really a problem, right? And if
Correct.
it's not a problem, then it doesn't need fixing,
yeah.
And then everybody's happy. So I would say don't get stuck. If you get stuck trying to find the way out, And if you have issues with delegating, everybody does, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's
Until
kind of
you
like
overcome.
letting go of like the balloon. You know, once you let go, the balloon's just going to float and float and float.
Yeah.
Higher and higher.
Otherwise, it's just gonna break, and the fact that you're making, I don't know, 300, 400, $500,000 a year is not gonna matter. If you're not happy,
Yeah.
and if you feel like we're working every day, then what's the point of that?
Awesome.
So, from agent to broker, if you only had to pick one niche or one lane to do as an agent for the rest of your life, so you had to go back to an agent. So, would you buy, sell, search new construction?
Love that question. I feel like it's supposed to be changing. It's supposed to be evolving. And I think that agents that select a niche and stay there forever are setting themselves up for a failure. So you need to know different traits. You need to know how to work with buyers, and how to work with sellers, and how to work with new constructions. I'm not saying you have to do all of them, but you have to know how to do them, and you need to be able to switch. Because think about it, if you are working only with sellers, and there are a lot of agents that specifically don't work with buyers. Every buyer that is interested in working with them, they just refer to somebody else. It's their business model is designed that way. They only work with sellers. And now we have the shifting market where buyers have more leverage. Listings are not as easy to sell, where you could put just something on the MLS and it sells itself within a week. No staging, no professional photography. And it started to matter more now. And the agents that don't have a database of buyers, only starting to work with buyers and starting doing open houses, they're at disadvantage between the agents that have been working and doing open houses and building their database for the past year, 2 years, or whatnot. Same thing with new construction. When I started back in 2015, that seemed like an amazing niche. And there were not a lot of people in it. You couldn't find, there was no new home source professional where you could find all of the MLS listings. So it was so much easier to dominate that niche compared to right now, that if I would be starting right now, I wouldn't select that as a niche and like, I'm not doing anything else but new construction, because I would set myself up for the failure. So the bottom line, I guess, is know how to do different things so that you can switch if you feel like the market is changing. And once it picks up and it becomes hot again, then switch to listings again,
But
back and forth.
if you were stuck doing one, what would you pick? If you had to.
I love new construction.
Okay.
I love new construction, and if we have less of them in Bay Area, I would still sell new construction, but outside of the Bay Area.
Okay, cool.
So, what do you see new agents struggling with most, like top 3 things, and how would you overcome them?
That's another deep question. I think different stages of getting involved in real estate cause different problems. The very first thing, let's go through the problem. Problem number 1 is, where do I find clients, right? And what do I say on the phone? So the problems can start really simple and small. But then, okay, you started finding clients, you started talking to them on the phone. Next problem is, how do I schedule an appointment? Okay, you start solving that problem. Next problem is, what do I actually say at the appointment? Right? So it's a series of problems and just moving on from another. And the way to solve these problems is simply experience. You just have to do that. You have to get somebody who is gonna mentor you and tell you what to do on those things. And you just need to do them a lot. So you need to make a lot of calls in order to know what to say on the phone. You need to have a lot of appointments in order to say and know what to say at the appointment. And it just moves on. But I think the biggest one is that once you solve this series of problems, you know how to call, you know how to talk to the people, how to get the appointment, and how to get a transaction. And the scary stuff happens when you actually do have that transaction and you make your first paycheck. And you get your first paycheck and your brain races like, oh my God, I made so much money. And you go and take vacation. And I see that more often than not, that as soon as people get their, 10K, 15K, 20K paycheck, in a lot of the cases for the new agent, it's the most money they ever made on one paycheck, right? And so immediately they book plane to Vegas and they take a vacation for the next week or so. But what happens is their business becomes so unsustainable because they don't keep on lead generating. They don't keep on finding new clients for the next transaction. And so they run out of this first paycheck within the first week or two. They just blow all the money, and it's so much harder for them to make that next paycheck because they stopped doing what they were doing before. I don't know, does that answer your question?
I actually, can I ask one more? It's about psychology.
Uh-huh.
So you gave us a little taste yesterday here about like psychology tricks that you can use, like pull it away as you make it more.
Jedi trait.
Yeah. So do you have any other Jedi tricks up your sleeve that we can practice?
That's a broad one when you just ask like, I'm sure I do.
Yeah.
But the reason
fuck.
I came up with the one yesterday because we were kind of hovering over that topic and it just kind of clicked in my brain. Just from the top of my head, and I don't like to call them tricks, by the way.
Strategies.
Tricks associates with something, sneaky, like I'm gonna trick you. But strategy is something that you actually develop, you go and test, and you know exactly what you're doing. You're not trying to trick anyone.
Okay.
Right? So you're strategizing. It's fluid, man. It's changing, but I like mirroring. It's the simplest, the oldest strategy in the book to show the client that you are with them and you understand exactly what their priority or concern is. And the mirroring is simply paraphrasing what they said and repeating it back to them to solidify that they are heard. Is that the 20 minutes?
That's 20. That's time.
So that's all that we had time for. It felt like it just went by like this.
It went fast.
That's what I was hoping for. That's great.
So I hope that you enjoyed watching this video. We have to stop it right here. That's a commitment we made right when the clock stops. And if you want to see more of these discussions, more of these questions and answer about real estate, about real talk, real people discussing real estate, put thumbs up under this video and leave comment. Maybe put some of the questions that you want to have asked in the future episodes of Real Talk. Bye for now.
Yes.
That was fun, huh?
Nice.
We can make it like an hour thing.
I think we could probably
At least
go
so
30
fast.
minutes, 45 minutes.
30, 40, yeah.